Hello. So you are in your training contract, potentially maybe nearing qualification, or you're just wondering, what the hell do I do after I qualify? This video may or may not help you, if I'm honest. Some of the tips I'll say, you might listen to all of them and be like, Sim, this did not help me in any way. And I'm sorry, bro, I don't know what I can do, but hopefully at least one point here will help you out in some way in making that decision. Quick summary of my journey. My name is Simranjeet Mann. I am a junior associate and I've decided to qualify in the commercial and fintech space. So I'm a newly qualified solicitor and I'm actually going to start my role in the next few weeks. So very, very excited about that. Guys, I'm so gassed. That was like my first time I did my new introduction without saying I'm a trainee solicitor, blah, blah, blah. That's mad. Smashed it. Let's just jump straight into it. The first thing that I looked at was what my strengths were. So obviously everyone has strengths, everyone has weaknesses. Really reflect and think, okay, you know what, at work, what is the common thing that I'm praised on? Look at these strengths and think, okay, in which practice area, for example, if you're in a fourth seat, in which practice area were those strengths allowed to flourish the most? From a psychological perspective, when you are strong at something and you know you're strong at something, I think you enjoy doing it most of the time. Obviously, this is a big generalization, but I think from my experience, when I know I'm good at something, I'll enjoy it. So for example, when I was studying maths at school, the parts where I didn't understand it, I hated maths, but the parts of algebra, for example, where I understood it, I loved maths. And it was like, oh, this actually makes sense. So I think I'm trying to apply that same logic here. Look at your strengths and look at the practice area that's allowed you to flourish your strengths the most, that allows you to really you see yourself doing the best in it. The second thing I really want to highlight is differentiating between the team and the area. So there are situations, for example, where you are working in a practice area and your team, you may not like working in your team, right? There may be some colleagues that you just don't enjoy working with. They may work well with other people, but for example, their style of management just may not be what you want out of your career, for example. Or you may absolutely hate a practice area, but you love working for the team. Both of these options can really cloud your mindset and your decision on what you want to go with. For me, what I've done with my role is I stuck to my guns and I stuck with practice area over team and over firm. So I decided to qualify in the practice area that I wanted to go in, and that took top priority rather than working in a particular team or working for a particular firm. For others, it might be different. And I think that leads on to my third point. What are your priorities? Do you want to work with certain people, or do you want to work for a certain firm, or do you want to work in a certain area? So for me, it was a third option. I wanted to work in that certain area, whereas some people just really like 3 or 4 practice areas, for example, and they completely fine into which one that they qualify into. So then for them, it may be more about the team or it may be about the firm. But the one thing I would say and warn you about with teams is teams can change. A partner could leave and take some of the team with them, or any kind of situation. People leave and go to new jobs all the time, so that may not be there. And also with the firm option, cultures in firms may change after mergers or after people have left, or again, culture is also something that changes a lot in firms as well. So the one thing that I think stays constant is the area that you decide to qualify in. And if you have a genuine interest in that particular area, I think it's best, personally, from what I've done, is stick to your guns. One thing that I think really helped me during my training contract is just noting down what I like and what I didn't like about each practice area. And I think that helped me then when I was looking back at my training contract seats, because I've got a bit of a bad memory, it helped me to look back and think, okay, these were my thoughts during this time. So you can actually just keep a written note in your personal email folders or your personal documents and just keep that updated. So then when the decision comes, you can just look back at that. I think what I also did was I looked at myself and I thought, okay, if I was doing this practice area for the rest of my life, would I be happy? And that's what made me think, okay, this was the main thing that actually led me towards commercial, because I think before it was between real estate and commercial for me, but I thought, would I be able to do real estate for the rest of my life? I don't think so. Whereas that interest in business and how businesses operate, I think that's always going to continue, and that's always going to be an interest for me. So that's why I decided to stick to commercial. And a final point, I think this kind of summarizes everything up all together, is essentially look at the moments in your training contract when you are in the zone, when time has flown by so fast, you've not even had a chance to look at the clock and by that point it's like 5-6 p.m. You're like, oh my god, you've done so much work. It's not because you've been kind of slaving away almost. You've just been so invested in something. You found something so interesting that you've just not seen where the time has gone. So really look out for those moments in your training contract. How I came to my decision of qualifying in commercial is I actually looked at all of my seats and I thought, what's the one thing that I love in every seat that I've done? So in my first seat in construction, I loved reviewing JCTs and NEC's building contracts. In my second seat, I liked reviewing leases, heads of terms, negotiating leases, etc. So there's a bit of a common theme here. In my secondment, I was involved in reviewing NDAs, procurement agreements. I was interested in that element too, and I did the same in my final seat. So in each of those seats, there was an element of commercial contract reviewing, and I don't know why, but I really found that part interesting, and that's what led me to qualify and decide to qualify in commercial. So that's essentially how I went across the whole process of deciding what practice area I wanted to qualify into. If you have picked a practice area and you realize later on that you made a mistake and you want to qualify elsewhere, I've definitely heard of lawyers who have cross-qualified into other areas. I'm not quite sure how prevalent it is. So I have heard, for example, of planning lawyers becoming real estate lawyers, and I feel like that's a little bit easier because there is that relation there. But there have also been, for example, people who've come from really niche practice areas to go into something different. So definitely do bear that in mind as well. I think it's definitely important to remember that this isn't the end of it. If you do decide to pick on a practice area, this isn't something that you have to do for the rest of your career. And if you do want to cross-qualify, go into another area in the future, I think there is certainly people that I've witnessed who have done that, so it is certainly possible. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it is possible, and I think that's what you need to hold on to. Yeah, I think that's essentially my video. Hopefully it's helpful. This is all from my experience, so if anything here just wasn't helpful to you at all, I'm so sorry. I tried my best. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.